Moncton just changed the real estate game overnight, and most people haven't even realized it yet. The city has introduced new zoning laws that let property owners convert single-family homes or new builds into buildings with up to 4 units without changing the zoning. This isn't just a small update, it completely changes what's possible with your property. In this video, I'll break down exactly what these changes mean for you, whether you're a homeowner thinking about adding a rental suite or an investor looking for your next opportunity in Greater Moncton. If you're new here, my name is Cameron Brioux and I'm a realtor in Moncton, New Brunswick. I create videos every week to help you buy, sell, and invest in the Canadian real estate market. But if you want to dive deeper into the Greater Moncton market, you can go to the first link down in the description and you can book a call with me, either online or we could grab a coffee. Before we get into these exciting changes, let's quickly cover what zoning laws actually are for those who might be new to real estate. Zoning laws are basically rules that determine how your property can be used that's set out by the city. They control everything from what type of building that you can construct to how many units you can have on a single lot. Here in Moncton, we've traditionally had zones like R1, which is single family residential, R2, which is 2-unit residential, R3, which is multiple unit residential, and several others for commercial and mixed-use properties. These designations have strictly limited what property owners could do. For example, if you owned a home in an R1 zone, you couldn't legally convert it into a duplex without going through the lengthy rezoning process, which was often a pain. This created significant barriers for homeowners that wanted to add rental units and for investors that were looking to maximize their potential. The process was time-consuming, expensive, and frankly discouraging for many. But now, that's all changing in a big way. So what's actually changing? The Housing Accelerator Fund, or the HAF 4-unit ADU zoning amendments, is changing, which was presented at the March 26, 2025 Planning and Advisory Committee meeting where they approved it. This isn't just a minor policy tweak, it's a comprehensive change funded by the federal government, specifically addressing our region's housing crisis. Let me put this into perspective. Home prices in Moncton have risen approximately 65% in the last 5 years. Average rents have jumped 40%, while vacancy rates have plummeted to historic lows of around 2.1%, as reported by CMHC this year. These aren't just stats, they represent real families struggling to find affordable housing. The City of Moncton has revisited their zoning bylaws to allow for up to 4 units on a lot that were previously restricted to single-family homes or duplexes. This applies to most residential zones throughout Moncton, with some exceptions in certain heritage or specifically designated areas. If you're in R1, R2, R2U zone, they are likely eligible for this opportunity. What's fascinating is that there are actually 2 major components of this change: the 4-unit permission we've been discussing and the new rules for accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. These are secondary units like garden suites or laneway homes. What they expect will be increased interest. To put this into perspective, here's what was allowed before versus now. Before, R1 zone was only a single family home. R2 zone was up to 2 units, like a house with a basement apartment or a duplex. Now, both R1 and R2 zones, up to 4 separate units are allowed. This is significant because it essentially quadruples the development potential of thousands of properties across Moncton overnight. And unlike previous zoning changes that might have only affected new construction, this applies to all existing properties too, opening up opportunities for current homeowners and investors. If you already own a home in Moncton, this change could impact your property's values and give you new options you didn't have before. First, let's talk about property values. Properties that can accommodate multiple units are inherently more valuable because they could offer more potential income. A single-family home that can now be converted to contain up to 4 units might see substantial increase in the market value, potentially tens of thousands of dollars, without any physical changes. On the flip side, a smaller home on a larger lot in a desirable area could also see a new light. According to the official notice, homeowners now have several specific new options. Add accessory dwelling units, ADUs, to your property, convert your single-family home into a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, build a new multi-unit building with up to 4 units on that lot that previously only allowed for single-family homes. The city is particularly encouraging what they call gentle density, modifications that add housing units while preserving neighborhood character. This means you could potentially add units without dramatically changing the exterior or the appearance of your home. How, you ask? Some practical ways homeowners might use this change is you could convert a basement into 2 separate units, add a garden suite or a laneway house, and to me, that could be somewhere like the downtown corridor. There are some streets that back on with a garage to a new street. That garage could be converted, ultimately becoming a laneway house. You could convert a large single-family home into 2 separate apartments, or you could create a multi-generational living space while maintaining privacy within that larger home. It's important to note that while zoning allows for this, any conversion still needs to meet building codes and safety requirements. You can't just put up some drywall and call it 4 units. Proper fire separation, entrances, and utilities are required. That said, if you've been waiting for an opportunity to generate income from your property, this change makes it more accessible than it was before. For investors, this zoning change is like finding gold. Properties that are previously limited to single-family use can now potentially generate income from multiple units. The potential impact, in my opinion, is massive. Dieppe alone projects an acceleration of 220 new homes in the next 3 years as a result, and as many as 3,700 homes over the next decade as a result of the HAF initiatives. Moncton, being larger, could see even more units added. I recently helped an investor acquire a property that under the old zoning was very limited in adding a unit. Now they could add an additional 3 units in this property, potentially doubling the rental income. So here's what savvy investors should be looking for: larger single-family homes with good bones and potential for conversion, which could mean staircases in the center of the building or the back of the building to be able to separate your entry and exit points. Properties with walkout basements, locations near universities or hospitals where rental demand is high, corner lots or properties with really good parking potential. From an ROI perspective, the numbers can be compelling. So let's use a simple example. A single-family home renting for about $2,000 per month might sell for, let's say, $400,000 in today's market. That same property converted into 4 units, each renting for about $1,200, could generate $4,800 monthly, more than doubling the rental income. Even after accounting for higher vacancy rates, maintenance, utility costs, the cash flow improvement is substantial. And that increased income potential directly impacts the property's market value. From a financing perspective, multifamily properties can often qualify for better commercial lending terms, and the increased income makes debt servicing easier. But double check with your broker on your own situation. While the zoning creates amazing opportunities, it's not without challenges. I want to give you a realistic picture so you can plan accordingly. Here are some key challenges to consider. First, conversion costs. Converting a single-family home into multiple units is not cheap. You'll need separate entrances, proper fire separation between units, possibly upgraded electrical systems with metering, and separate mechanicals. For example, depending on the property, this could range from $25,000 to $100,000 or more. Second, parking requirements. Moncton requires a certain number of parking spaces per unit. If your lot can't accommodate this, you may need to apply for a variance or reduce the number of units that you can create. Third, there might be design constraints. Not every house layout is conducive to being divided into multiple units. Properties with open concept designs might require more substantial renovations than those with more compartmentalized layouts. Finally, there's property management to consider. Being a landlord for 1 unit is very different than managing 4. So you'll need systems systems for maintenance, rent collection, and tenant screening. None of these challenges are insurmountable, but they require planning and possibly professional advice before you dive in. Let's take a step back and ask a fundamental question. Does the zoning change actually matter for the average Moncton homeowner? Can regular people take advantage of this opportunity? The truth is, it depends on your specific situation. But let's break down this realistically. For newer homes with modern open concept floor plans and finished basements, the economics, in my opinion, don't make sense. If you already have a beautiful basement that's integrated with your living space, converting it into a separate unit could cost a fortune for proper fire separation, separate HVAC or electrical upgrades, soundproofing, and legal egress. The city's document shows a floor plan and suggests splitting up split-level homes into multiple units. And while technically that is possible, we need to be honest. That's a massive renovation. You'll essentially be gutting and reconfiguring the entire home. So let's run some numbers. If a renovation costs $110,000 but only adds $30,000 to the property's value, plus maybe $1,200 of monthly rental income, the math doesn't math for many homeowners. No matter what investment planner calculator you plug that into, the payback is just not realistic. But if the property is in a high rental demand area, there could be a few different ways to look at this, and that would be a unique situation to perhaps consult with your realtor or a construction professional. However, this might absolutely make sense for somebody who has a larger, older home that needs renovation anyway. So if you're already spending $60,000 on renovation, spending an extra $50,000 to create a rental unit could make financial sense. Also, houses with natural separation points. And what I mean by that is homes with walkout basements or multiple entrances, either on the back or the side, that can be easily sectioned off. So in Greater Moncton, there's a lot of semi-detached with side entrances that go right downstairs. Those could easily be sectioned off and you could redo the basement to be a second unit. Downtown, properties with large yards where you could potentially add an ADU so it doesn't sacrifice your living space would also be a consideration. Investors who are buying properties specifically for this purpose can achieve some economies of scale, and it could be something really interesting to look at over the next couple of years. So where I think we'll see the biggest impact is in new construction. Builders are already drafting plans specifically designed around this to accommodate multiple units, or that could be easily converted. And there's already a builder that has floor plans in both Riverview and Moncton North with semi-detached homes with separate side entrances with basement suites. I expect we'll see significant shifts in how new homes are built in Moncton over the next 3 to 5 years. Rather than retrofitting existing homes at high costs, we'll see purpose-built flexible housing become the norm. For the average homeowner in an average subdivision with a home that was built in the last 20 years, the zoning change might be more theoretical than practical, unless you have a property that naturally lends itself to construction or addition. That said, even if you don't want to become a landlord, these challenges could still increase your property's value because future buyers might see that potential that you don't see now. So while you might not personally leverage these new rules, they could still benefit you when it is time to sell. Given that we've just discussed about the realities for average homeowners, here's how to determine if these changes make sense for your specific property. First, do a preliminary feasibility assessment. Does your home have natural separation points? Is your yard large enough for an ADU? I would get plans for an ADU, measure it out, and understand if you have the clearance around the property, if you're able to connect water, sewer, and electrical from your main entrance, all of those great things. And you want to do it in a way that ensures you're not sacrificing your quality of life to add this additional unit. With that said, you'll also want to consider, would you be sacrificing valuable living space to create these rental units? Is your neighborhood desirable for these renters? You could survey some property managers or reach out to a realtor like myself to ask these questions. Second, get a contractor to provide a realistic renovation estimate. Be prepared that these costs are often 30 to 50% higher than initial estimates once you factor in permits, unforeseen issues, and building code requirements. Third, talk to a real estate professional about potential ROI. What would your property be worth with these additional units? Are you creating rental density in an area without any demand? What's the rental market like in your specific neighborhood? Only after these steps should you consider moving forward with permits and detailed plans. If you're interested in taking advantage of these changes, I recommend checking out the City of Moncton's website for a detailed implementation schedule. The city has committed to streamlining the permit application process for these types of conversions, which should make your project move more quickly than traditional rezoning requests. I think it goes without saying, but having the right team makes all the difference. And this team should include a contractor experienced in multi-unit construction, or they've added basement suites, a real estate agent who understands investment properties, like me, possibly an architect for more complex conversions, a mortgage broker or banker familiar with multi-unit financing, and finally, a thorough understanding of the permit process, which could be you. All of the information is available online. The city provides checklists and are your resource to help get all the documentation that you need together in order to make these projects happen. The city requires building permits for any conversion work, and the process works most smoothly when you have detailed plans ready from the start. Timeline expectations vary, but typically permit approval is generally 2 to 8 weeks. Conversion construction could be 2 to 6 months, depending on complexity. Tenant placement, you'll want to give yourself 1 or 2 months. So from decision to rental income, you're potentially looking at 6 to 12 months in most cases. These zoning changes represent one of the biggest shifts in the Moncton real estate landscape in years. They create opportunities for both homeowners and investors to maximize property value and generate additional income. Remember, these changes are part of Moncton's broader strategy to address housing affordability and supply issues. The fact that they secured federal funding through the Housing Accelerator Fund shows that this is backed by multiple levels of government, and it is likely to remain in place long term. Whether you're looking to add small rental suites to help with your mortgage, or you're an investor looking to maximize your returns, understanding these new rules puts you ahead of the curve. If you're considering converting your property or purchasing one to develop under these new rules, I would love to help. As an investor, I love seeing new opportunities like this in creative ways to both help the community as well as repurpose existing buildings. If you do have any questions, drop them in the comments below, or feel free to send me an email. Or if you want to dive deeper into the Moncton market on a specific property, you can click the first link down in the description. Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe for more real estate insights here in Greater Moncton. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.